Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Latched Mama podcast. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, the Latched Mama podcast is a podcast for all of the mothers and the parents and everybody who is in the trenches of raising tiny humans. Hi.
Hi.
I'm with Lindi today. Guys, we haven't recorded in so long. Kennedy's been out of the country, but now he's back, and we're here. And it is World Breastfeeding Week. Well, it's not really. Like, we're kind of like pre-gaming for it this week. But when you guys are hearing this, it's World Breastfeeding Week, which is by far our biggest week of the year. We like to bring you guys all of the education and clothes and sales and excitement. It's pretty much our Super Bowl. It's our Black Friday here at Latched Mama. And I have to say, we're a little fried. So bear with us. You're listening to Latched Mama Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Wirt, busy mom of 6 and owner of LatchedMama.com. Join us each week as we talk about pregnancy, breastfeeding, postpartum, and all things motherhood. How's life? Summer's almost over.
Yes, I am very excited for school to go back for a little bit more schedule. I love my kids, so not that reason, but my kids love that schedule. They like having knowing what is going on every day. Yeah. And right now it's a mess some days. So.
Absolutely. Swim just ended for us. We have no schedule. We have a nanny out with COVID. We have a nanny on vacation. It's just it's all the things the week before World Breastfeeding Week. Yeah. That's a pretty cup there that you have. It's pretty much it's nice, literally probably the coolest thing we have ever made as a company. So I mean, the nursing hoodie was awesome.
Go find this cup at our website.
But that cup's amazing. Okay. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about, I think we're supposed to talk about breastfeeding. Yeah. Yeah. Some myths, some expectations. Yeah. I don't know.
Hopefully
really?
Some tips.
Yeah.
Maybe we could just go back to when you were first pregnant.
Okay.
See, but I already know that you dug in and knew a whole lot more than I did.
No, I didn't know
I was
too
a bit
much.
of a hot mess, but I'm going back to thinking about my experience and when I first got pregnant, what I knew, did I look into anything? What was I told? Yeah. Any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you it was minimal.
I took a hospital breastfeeding class. Oh. One of those, you go for free and you go in and you kind of learn a little bit about breastfeeding. I also, never, until we started this company, really knew that it, was kind of an accepted fact that some women just couldn't breastfeed. And I think that the percentage is probably a little bit smaller than it actually ends up looking like because of a lack of support or education or help or whatever, and completely okay either way. But I remember not really ever thinking it was going to be that difficult. I didn't doubt my ability to breastfeed, but then it was hard. It wasn't hard to get him to gain weight or anything, but it hurt. I had no idea what it was supposed to look like. Right. That whole first time you have a baby, when you go, it's something crazy. There's 14 prenatal appointments during pregnancy, and then they hand you a baby, and then they send you home, and they say, "Here, feed this baby from your body." If you're a good mom, you're gonna breastfeed your baby and figure it out. But you know what? We'll see you in 6 weeks. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. It's fascinating to me that we just think that women are just going to be able to figure it out,
or that it somehow ends there. The education and the help,
Yeah, the idea that women are using Google more and YouTube more than they actually have human beings sitting with them and helping them, right, is, I think, such a terrible thing to happen. I don't know. Yeah. I have all sorts of things. It's really funny when we podcast. It's really hard for me.
Our brain goes in millions of directions.
I think most professional people who podcast, who have professional
they probably
podcasts.
Have notes. What's this say?
They have notes, and they leave their life at the door.
We got some numbers.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
We got 50, 60,
70. I don't know what those numbers are.
We don't have notes.
It's just really funny because I think some people leave their lives at the door. But then my head starts spinning. And I just think about the fact that as a society, this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. COVID has made us all so disconnected in the sense that now virtual help is seen as normal help, and it's seen as good enough. But in something like breastfeeding, where there was no help really to begin with, and now we're saying virtual help is an option, is that better or worse? Like, maybe there is more support because there are virtual platforms that you can get it on, and more of them now. But is it going to affect, you know, those in-home lactation consultant visits, or, you know,
like the tangible help. Yeah, in person.
And our doctor's offices open back again to somebody coming in at 2 or 3 weeks that maybe doesn't have a medical concern, but, you know, does want their latch checked out or something like that. It's just hard for me to think that we just teach women that they're supposed to breastfeed, or we tell women that they're supposed to breastfeed. Just do it. Here's how your baby latches. Oh, your latch looks great. Okay, go home. Then your breasts fill up with milk. And then a latch looks completely different at that point. The baby's going to have a hard time probably latching. Your breasts are going to be uncomfortable. Your letdown is probably going to be so strong in those first few days because there's so much milk in there. The baby's going to sputter and like blah, blah, blah. It's just, I don't know.
Or I know, and you know, you think these babies just come out, oh, well, they know how to do it. They can suck. Well, just the knowledge to that innate sucking is very different from like they can't position their bodies. They have no, I mean, yes, I think they can naturally kind of suckle and feel and know mom and learn what, you know, where to go and what that is, but like they can't move. So like not only are you trying to find a comfortable position for you to like lower the stress, feel relaxed, but you need to now position baby as well so baby can do said sucking.
And if you've had you've had a C-section or a traumatic birth and your butt hurts and, you know, it's just, it's tough. And I don't mean to like, I feel like we're like bringing all like the Debbie Downer stuff to this, but just, I think it's reality. And I think it's reality of motherhood. I think there's so many places that hopefully as a brand we bring attention to, but I feel like this is definitely one of them, is that we're sending women home with these expectations that they're going to feed their babies from their bodies when their bodies might not be okay, like mentally and physically. Like, in order to provide for another human being, you have to be taking care of yourself. And I think there's such a lack of support.
And I don't even see it as not bad things or Debbie Downers, but just that when they say, oh, good latch, great, go do it, as if there's never going to be a change and there's never going to be a bump in the road. And so it's like expectations maybe more so.
Yeah.
To where, oh, something's happened today. It's okay. Like, you can get through it. We find the options, find the solutions, make the choices, and you keep going, and not just like, nobody told me about this.
Yeah.
Like, now what do I do? You know?
And I think that's why I've always been such a big advocate, especially after I had my first baby, and it like my entire birth story was, or my birth plan was turned on its head. And I mean, for weeks and weeks after that, I was a complete train wreck because he was born in the back of the car, and it was, I mean, although it ended up being a very gentle situation, it was not what I expected, and it was really hard. But have your resources together before you have a baby. You know, make a list of those 5 different lactation consultants or postpartum doulas or somebody that you can reach out to in those coming weeks, because we don't prepare women enough to know, even if things go perfectly, what it feels like to have a baby. Like, even if things go absolutely perfectly, your hormones are still going to cascade down Niagara Falls afterwards, and you're not going to feel like probably doing much of anything, especially Googling and looking for resources when the pediatrician tells you your baby's not gaining enough weight or your nipples hurt.
I wish back then, I mean, I can't change anything, but I wish it was more like educate literally how my body works, how my breast works, how, you know, this placenta releases, this releases, like literally, because it's pretty logical.
Absolutely.
And if I knew that, and it wasn't just this mystical, like incredible experience, it was a little bit more like, hey, this is what happens. It's actually a simple kind of supply and demand. This is going to happen. This is going to be released. This is how milk is produced, made. It comes, like, I remember my mom one time, like some of these things, she's like, it comes out, there's more than one stream. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, I had no idea. But like things like that like, no, there's not just one hole. Like there is multiple streams like from it. So just like those simple things that are more, if I knew how my body worked, it might have eased
it's like
some of those fears and stresses I had.
It's crazy to me because like we graduate high school knowing what how a frog develops or how all
I can drop an egg off the water tower.
Exactly.
And I know how it doesn't break because I know how to package it.
But I have no
idea. But do I know
idea.
how my body works? No.
No, not at all.
No, we don't.
Not at all.
No.
Oh, we all need to learn about compounding interest and how our bodies works.
Right.
There you go.
So I do. I wish I just went and learned a bit of biology. Like that could have helped me so much.
And it's not difficult.
It's not hard.
Science.
I could have found that anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Nope, absolutely not.
And you might even not find it in a class. Yeah. I don't know if they get into that.
Here's the deal with education. And what's crazy about education is education has a direct result on lowering anxiety. If you can understand how something works, or you can understand why something is happening the way it does, or you're empowered to know, hey, all of a sudden I had a C-section. I'm super anxious that my milk's not going to come in because I heard from so-and-so their milk didn't come in after a C-section. But I know that oxytocin's going to help. And I know as soon as I can get that baby skin to skin that I can help myself. That's going to naturally lower anxiety. But if we're not educating ourselves or working to help each other prior to that, we're stuck in those situations, you know. Yeah.
And what's sad, it took me all the way till that CLC training. Mm-hmm. I had 6 kids and twins, and I only really learned some certain things about my body and how it functions at that training.
It's crazy.
But like, why didn't I go find these things between kid to kid? I mean, I was probably a hot mess.
Underwater.
Like you can't, But as simple as that, and that's something I've always thought about is just basic. How does this function?
And like I said, I mean, it's so funny when you compare it to dropping an egg from a tower, or like when I dissected a fetal pig in biology class. Like it's easier than that stuff. It's really not difficult. Our bodies are not complicated
to produce the milk.
Yeah, when it comes to producing the milk.
The application and how that's a different thing. But Absolutely. If I learned just how is this milk made, how does my body work, that would have eliminated some of the other struggles. 100%.
Yeah.
When I laid there and I'm like, no, I can't nurse from the side because I need that milk in 2 hours.
What?
Like there would be times with Gabe because I didn't really nurse as much with Lennox.
Okay.
And I'm like, I've already nursed him, but he's still hungry. And if I nurse him on this side, I'm not going to have enough for when I'm nursing him the next time on this side. But it's like
My
simple.
Heart.
Yes, but simple supply and demand. If I was educated and I knew how my body worked and how milk is produced, I wouldn't have that problem.
So why are we not empowering women to like understand these things before we are giving them little human beings and sending them home? Yes. Not because I don't think we figure it out. We figure it out. We have resources. It's fine. Yeah.
And I figured it out.
Simple idea that we shouldn't have to figure it out. Our only responsibility at that point should be like literally caring for ourselves and this little human and adjusting to the fact that this seismic shift has just happened in our lives. We shouldn't also be Googling how we make sure we have milk in the other breast in 2 hours, or what do we do if our baby keeps nursing, or like the question we get all of the time. My baby's hungry between feedings. Should I give it formula? You know, like we have that question all of the time. And if you're not making enough, if that's what's best for your family, sure. But most of the time, it's just your baby trying to get your milk to come in shortly after delivery. And
it's okay.
It's literally your baby trying to get your body to produce more. And if you take that baby off of the breast and you give them formula, your body's never going to know that it needs to make more.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Anyways.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about breastfeeding?
I don't know. I was just trying to think of those like weird things that happened to me that really could have been solved with something simple.
Also, we get a lot of questions in the group about like what pump to bring to the hospital. I'm a firm believer that until that 6-week mark, unless you're going back to work and you need to create a pumping stash, you let your body do what you can do. You know, put that baby to the breast as much as you can. You know, on that supply and demand thing, if you are getting engorged and the only answer to lessen that engorgement is to pump, then yes, pumping. But, you know, hand expressing in the shower, warm compresses, all of that stuff is going to, you know, decrease the milk production without increasing your body's desire to make more milk.
Right.
You know,
Agreed.
There are ways to do that.
And if you really need something like that, hospital, you can figure that out there.
Yes, you don't stress. You don't.
Some issue.
It's really weird. I think that in some ways, I think it's great, but that whole get a breast pump with your insurance thing all of a sudden made everybody think that they needed a breast pump, which is really interesting because I didn't have one with my first 2 kids, my first 3 kids maybe, because I wasn't going back to work and I was at home and I didn't pump until baby number 3 or 4. But then all of a sudden, I mean, I think it's fantastic that we're giving women free pumps, but you know, it's an interesting type of like shift in what our brains say. It's also because we're making people go back to work, but that's a whole.
And it also
story.
makes things, if it is introduced early and you don't understand the difference between breastfeeding and pumping or hand expressing and pumping, you're using a machine. It can really screw and mess with your expectations on output and don't. If it's not needed right now, don't go there. Just get to know yourself and your baby.
Because
and
sometimes weaning off of a pump is harder than dealing with some engorgement when it first begins. Because if you start pumping that engorgement away, your body's going to think you're feeding an additional child. And it can get really, really hairy really fast. And you could all of a sudden be stuck on a pump every 2 to 3 hours to make yourself feel more comfortable. And weaning off of it is not fun. So, what else is there to talk about? I don't know. We can talk about breastfeeding in public. That's always something that comes up too.
Yeah.
And like how to do it.
Yeah, I was a mess. I had no idea what to expect with Gabe because with Lennox ending up in the NICU, I ended up just turning to pumping, and that was what it was. But so it was like essentially my first time. I didn't know what to expect. I had a whole ton of engorgement, and I struggled to get very comfortable finding a nursing position. It didn't feel very natural.
Yeah.
So nursing in public, I just couldn't. I didn't even really know how to hold him in here. My chest was rather large, so I always felt like I was suffocating. So I had like some pillows, and I wasn't comfortable.
So did you not leave
out
the house?
There? I would try to go like in between when we fed, or I'd feed in the car, but in like out, like on a bench or at a store, I wasn't ready for a little while, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I'm just trying to think back to remember what
I just can't imagine
like
timing when you leave, like adding that to the list of things, of reasons why women struggle so much after they have a baby is. You know, so there's like the lack of education on breastfeeding. There's the lack of empowerment. There's the lack of, hey, you can do this. It's normal. You can try. And you know what? You might show somebody who walks by your nipple the first couple of times. But you know what? You deserve to be out here. And you deserve to be able to leave your house with your baby and give your baby comfort when you want to. I mean, you also deserve to feed from the car or do whatever.
Wherever
but
you want. Yeah.
It's insane to me. But we're just literally pushing women home and saying, here, figure it out.
Well, and I think that's where my mind goes too, is if we were educated on our bodies, and yes, we can do it, but we shouldn't have to find the information like we talked about. That does lower this anxiety and stress later on. If someone helped you and educated you on positions, how to nurse comfortably, here are the options, it probably would make that time less stressful as well. So I was probably just filled with so much anxiety and stress trying to navigate this, not very educated on it. And so it didn't help that either, you know, me being able to be comfortable to go out and whatnot.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, it all just comes down to the fact that we need more support, you know, and we need to support each other. We need to build each other up. We need to find safe places. I don't know. Yeah. You have thoughts on that? It's just, it's tough. You know, I podcasted last week with a psychologist from California. It was a hot mess podcast. I don't even know if we're ever going to release it because I couldn't record it. She recorded it on her computer. I haven't even asked her for it. I don't know. But she had a really cool concept on like why moms are so mean to each other. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to recap it very well, but she said it all goes back to the fact that we were all like within tribes, and that was how like the brain was developed. And we all feel the need now that we don't have to hunt for food and we don't have to compete with each other for food and shelter and stuff. And we all have everything that we like technically need in life to stay alive. What we do with all of that energy and that flight or fight stuff that happens in our brain naturally because we're human beings is that we protect our young, and that so much of our reaction as mothers against each other is simply us trying to protect our young, which is so hard for me because when I look at somebody who has said something mean about me or the brand or something in general on the internet, I never think about the fact that they're coming to it from a perspective of a mother. And maybe I need to. Maybe I need to think that this is all just this hyper activity that is happening in our brains because it doesn't have anywhere else to go, because suddenly all of our biological kind of like needs are met and we're just trying to protect our young.
That's really interesting. I want to hear the podcast.
Well, I don't know if we'll ever get it.
You have to ask her for it.
Yeah, no, I need to be vulnerable and ask her for my podcast that she actually has on her computer now. But I don't know. It's just so interesting because so much of what we talked about today is based on support. And if there's not like money in society and there's not like a whole bunch of money in breastfeeding, which at the very beginning when we started this brand, a lot of people accused us of trying to like capitalize on breastfeeding and try to bring an income stream around something that should be natural, which I take pretty significant offense to. But I think we've done a really good job at balancing the revenue that comes in with the support that then goes out. But honestly, so much of the support needs to come like mom to mom. I mean, that's where like kind of the front line is, you know, like that free friendship support. But holy heck, is making mom friends hard. You know, like you can't create connection without vulnerability. But in a society, and especially in motherhood, where vulnerability is not normally celebrated, apologizing to somebody is sometimes taken as not apologizing because of a tone or whatever. And then all of a sudden you end up like in this situation where there isn't connection, and connection's not happening.
Yeah.
You got to talk on it. You got to. I know. We've been talking on hours about it today because it's just, it's hard. I don't mean to put you on the spot. No. I can keep talking.
No, I just think because support, I mean, it's just all tied into where we started, like with breastfeeding. It really comes down to offered support, whether it's basic support on your body, whether it's mental support, physical support, like, and educate, you know, and showing like breastfeeding. It comes down to support.
I haven't been able to get that statistic out of my brain that the number one cause of maternal death in the year after childbirth is self-harm. Like that statistic keeps going in and out of my brain every couple of months since I learned it. And like, what is the solution there? I mean, of course, the solution is more mental health help. I mean, of course. But could we potentially save lives and bridge connection by just literally being there for one another? But being there for one another is only going to happen if we're confident enough in ourselves to be vulnerable.
I know it's like a dumb question to ask why that statistic is there. But I don't know. I just really do wonder. Like I'm like stuck like thinking of that as now. I mean, you literally go from taking care of yourself with no responsibility on another human being, and now it's like you're not important, and this baby is important, and it is.
But if connection is truly what we're all on this planet to have. And it's literally what drives all of us. And we're all, most of us, by the time we hit motherhood, we all have crap. We all have trauma. We all have our different attachment styles. We all have stuff that we've accumulated over the years. And I mean, I would I don't know the statistic, 10%, 20% have probably done work, have probably tried to process through it. So we have all of these different people who have all of their different stuff.
Right.
Then they have a baby.
Yeah.
And then they start trying to raise the baby. And my guess, if it's anything like what's happened to me over the last few years, all of that stuff gets all shooken up. You know, and because you start seeing yourself and your kids, and you start seeing your parents' relationships with you and your kids, and why did this happen, and how on earth could they have ever said that to me? And, you know, you have all of this stuff that floats around.
Yeah.
But then you're supposed to go out and you're supposed to find connection with all of your crap.
Yeah. And how do you do that?
Yeah. How do you do that? It's fascinating to me, but none of us are going to get through this without connection, and none of us are going to get through this without being able to be vulnerable enough to ask for help and to show up as our authentic selves. Yeah.
Yeah. But most of us, to do that, need to get to a healthier place.
Yeah. Like our relationship.
So if you don't do the work,
yeah,
it's like you're running around on a little hamster wheel, like not going anywhere.
5 years ago when you came to Latch Mama, you weren't in a great spot.
No.
I'm not calling Lindi out, guys, but she knows that.
Not.
I wasn't in a great spot. I'm still not in a fantastic spot, but I'm in a better spot than I was a year and a half ago when Lindi was like, hey, therapy's rad. And I was like, I don't know. I'm a little bit on the therapy struggle bus at the moment. But we were laughing about that earlier.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know. It's just hard. Because it's such a privileged thing. It's such a privileged thing to be like, hey, I realized I needed connection. And I realized in order to be able to find that connection, I needed to work through some stuff for myself to make sure that I was a healthy person with whoever I connected to.
Right.
Now I've done that work, and now we have a really fantastic friendship. I feel like. You second that?
Yes.
Hi, friend. Hi. But if we hadn't had, it took a significant amount of privilege. It took a super flexible job.
Yeah.
It took money. It took a lot of things for us to start exploring that stuff, and a lot of stuff that a lot of resources that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah, I know.
So
I'm very thankful for that, but I do recognize that it is a very special thing to be able to do.
I don't know where I'm going with this. Happy World Breastfeeding Week, guys. We got so much work to do. But it's all good stuff. I feel like we're taking baby steps forward. I feel like as a brand, I feel like as a company, I feel like from educating people on breastfeeding through just being there for each other in the mom space by demonstrating what authenticity looks like, what transparency looks like, what owning your own shit looks like, which holy moly, if everybody
could
just...
It's not always easy to do.
Oh, it's
even
terribly
for healthy
hard.
people.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard. It is really hard. Do we have are we putting together like a breastfeeding type?
We are. We're
going to
try.
No, we have
we're going to try and put together YouTube stuff, right?
I think. Or is it going into YouTube?
So we have some informational stuff that's going to go out. We also have a YouTube. We're also going to start building out the YouTube channel. I think Lindi and I are going to do some stuff. It's hopefully going to bridge connection a little bit, and then we also have some educational breastfeeding stuff that's going to go out.
I wish I had our Latch Mama education on breastfeeding. I know. As a first-time mom or second or whenever.
But to also get it and feel it in a connective manner, I think are two totally different things. I think that the science is out there.
The science is fine, yeah.
And I think you can find it. I found it in that
hospital
class.
You do that on your own. Mm-hmm.
But did I feel like anybody from that hospital class or that teacher had my back on those early days?
Right.
Absolutely not.
No.
But if I could go to a YouTube channel, or I could find a Facebook group, or I could find a community, I think community plus education is probably the answer.
No, I 100% agree.
So, that's where we're going forward. Always and forever.
Well, I'm excited to see that stuff.
Oh, you're going to more than see it. You're pretty much an integral part of it at this point. You don't just design clothes anymore.
Maybe we just design accessories one day. So some days we're like, why do we do clothing?
Yeah. It's fine.
Why do we do clothing? Well, we know why we do clothing. That's a dumb question, but it's not always an easy thing to do.
It's good.
But
It pays for community, I think. It pays for the bigger question. I don't know. This is what happens. I think every week before World Breastfeeding Week, we should record these and then listen to them every year.
Oh my gosh.
Realize how
we're a hot mess.
Tired and like it's literally like
the topics that have come across in conversation.
Yeah,
the last 4 days
our life.
Is
or the topics that have come across in this last podcast that we just recorded is like the stream of consciousness that is happening in our brains right now. But happy World Breastfeeding Week. By the time you guys listen to this, we're going to be knee deep in the exciting part, which is giving you guys a bunch of free stuff and seeing you all every single day. And we can't wait.
Tell people about our group.
Yes, tell people about. Am I supposed to be telling people?
Podcast group.
Oh, we do. We do. We're going to build it up.
It's the Latched Mama podcast. I think that's it. There's no group on it. But come join us because we will kind of dive into specific questions on each week's podcast.
Yeah.
Come join it.
And the really cool thing about this podcast is that we pay for the podcast. So we have a little bit of money to bring in some guests or something like that, or maybe go talk to some people that you guys want to hear from and see what happens.
Yeah, come give us suggestions and stuff. But just motherhood, parenting things.
Yeah.
No clothes. So yeah.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.